All right, well, welcome to the Sean Trey Show. I have a really awesome guest with me. Now, would you like to introduce yourself and tell people who you are and what you do?
I am Morgan McGhee. I am a dancer, singer, actress here in New York City, currently on Broadway in Ain't Too Proud.
That's awesome. Now. You've got a lot that you do. Now, tell me, how did you get started in the arts?
Um, it's a funny story, actually. I was always interested in all things arts from a very young age, but I didn't really have anybody to model my life after, I guess. So it was always just like a side thing. Like I was always on the dance team at school. I was in school choir. It was like an auxiliary dance team here, just like little random things.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up actually going to school for accounting. Um,
There you go.
Finished all 4 years, got my degree, and realized I did not want to do that at all. I had a
I,
complete
s-
breakdown.
I
In
studied medicine,
Oh my
so
God. We are the same.
it was one day in school, and I was like, "What am I doing?
Yes, like
What am I doing?"
absolute like what is this? Like why
Mm-hmm.
have I just completely decided to avoid this thing that
Yeah.
keeps me alive every day? So that was my senior year of college. I had a complete breakdown right weeks before graduation. And then I got on the internet and I started looking up dance conservatories, and I auditioned for a bunch of them. While I was working in corporate America, I worked for a year. And then I got into one of them. I quit my job and I packed all my things and I moved to New York City. And I've
That's
been
what I'm
here ever
talking about.
since.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, how did you get into Broadway? How did that all play out? Because that's awesome. You
Yeah.
know.
So, like I started out as a dancer. So when
Okay.
I started looking up conservatories, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to do something on a stage. And I thought I wanted to do concert dance. So I was looking up like Alvin Ailey and Joffrey. I thought I was just going to like be a straight dancer. And then I saw this program at the school here, AMDA, the American Musical and Dramatic Academy, and they had
Mm-hmm.
a 2 year conservatory program where I would be a dance major, but I would also take acting and singing lessons. So I was like, that's great. Why not just do that? And after I went there,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to be on Broadway, which
That's awesome.
Broadway wasn't a new concept to me. I'm from Louisiana, so we don't have much of it. So, but I still knew what it was. My mom would tell me all the time when I was little. It's actually really crazy. She would always say, "Morgan, I want you to be on Broadway. Like you're gonna be on Broadway." And I would be like,
That's
"Yeah,
awesome.
right. I'm gonna be a businesswoman, mom. Like, don't you know?" Psych. She was right.
Yeah. Right. Did you ever hear that story that Denzel Washington tells about
No.
he was at his? There was this one story that he tells that he was at his mother's. I don't know if it was like a hair salon or something, but his mom had this business, and there were all these people sitting there.
Mhm.
And this one lady was looking at him, and he was like, he didn't know what he was going to do. And this one lady looks at him, and she's like, I will now prophesy. And she says, you will travel the world. People will see you. You will change and touch the lives of many people. And Denzel was like sitting there listening to this, going, I don't even know what I'm doing with my life. And this lady's just saying this. And then afterwards, he was like, but it was this moment where she just called it, you know? And it was like, sometimes we can't see the potential in ourselves,
Mm-mm.
and it takes some other people that have that sight to see it in us.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Right, right. That's awesome. So you moved to New York, you got into Broadway. Now what is it, you got into dance, and tell me about some of your first shows. How did it feel to step onto the stage?
My I had been performing in front of people ever since I was little. Like I said, I was
Yeah.
in the church choir. My mom was the church choir director, so we would have like
Oh,
mini
you
concerts.
you were seasoned
Oh,
veteran.
for every family holiday, my family would make. I come from a very big family. I have 5 sisters. My family would make us put on a show for them
Oh
every
man.
Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, 4th of July, you name it. So that part wasn't really new to me. After graduation, my first professional job though was at a theme park. It's called Busch Gardens.
I know Busch Gardens. Yeah.
Yes, I was performing at Busch Gardens, literally in the middle of two roller coasters.
That's awesome.
And it was the best experience that I'll never do again.
Right. I understand that completely. I remember like when I was in LA doing acting, and there was a casting notice for like one of the amusement parks, and I think it was like at Disney or something, and I was like, dude, you don't want to do that, you don't want to, and I didn't, but I was like thinking that, and people were like always were like looking down on that stuff, but then recently, what was it? The guy who plays Gaston
Uh,
at Disneyland went viral because he was just so damn good. And like the guy totally went viral because he just had like this absolutely awesome presence, and he put it, and then he got other work from it. And so it's like what I loved about that was there's always judgment about what role you're doing or this or that, but like he took what he was doing and he embraced the heck out of it. You know what I mean? And he's like, if I'm doing Gaston, I'm gonna be the best Gaston that there's ever been. You
exactly.
know? And sometimes you just have to be the best at what you are and where you are, because you don't know what that's gonna lead to.
100%. And that is the difference, I feel like, between being good and being great. Like
Yeah.
you just have to relish in the moment where you
Hmm.
are. Don't take it for granted. Do the best that you can. Like, people look down on work all the time, or like where people are in their journeys, not realizing that you were there at one point as well.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
everybody has to start somewhere. Some of
Yeah.
the most talented people that I've ever worked with, I worked with at Busch Gardens.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
And because
Right.
there's no ego attached to it, like,
Yeah.
people are there, they're ready to do the work, they're committed to it, and they just want the opportunity to shine, for somebody to see them. And I just love the early stages of people's journeys, because
Right?
the passion just reeks from them.
It, but there is like endless potential. There's a
Yeah,
million different roads they could go down, and it's simply about there is just this potential and passion that has yet to become expressed.
yeah.
And so I love that too. I was on this one big movie in LA in 2008, and it was like a big experience for me. Like it was my first big movie that I was on. And what was interesting on that was I was around about 20 guys. There was a 20 of us that were playing like Italian riot cops. We were like, all these cast as background is pure. Everyone was just getting into the industry, right?
Uh-huh.
But now it's 16 years later, and all of these guys that we still keep in touch with, most of them, and their careers have gone all different directions, and it's interesting to see this potential that everyone had manifested itself in a unique way. One guy is the head of this, is the like the head representative of this major alcohol brand. He goes around and does like tastings everywhere. And this other guy has really carved out a niche for himself. He played like in spoofs. He played like the Vin Diesel character in the spoof for
Yeah.
a Fast and the Furious franchise, and that's his thing, And it's like it's all these people have carved out these really interesting niches, but it took them just trying.
Yeah.
Now, how did you shift into film?
The pandemic. Um,
Okay, talk to me about that. That's interesting.
yeah. So TV was always something that I was interested in,
Yeah.
but I would always say, I'll do TV when I can't dance anymore. Like, I'll
Mm.
focus on that, when my bones don't work. Hopefully they continue to work. I don't even know why I ever said that. But right. Um
It's all
but
good. It's cleared now. It's cleared now. You're all good.
we knocked. It's fine.
It's fine.
Um and so in the pandemic, uh I was like, okay, theater is not a thing right now.
Yeah, because
So
theater shut down.
shut down completely. Like not even
Yeah.
in just New York, all regional theater, all
No.
basically live performances
Yep.
were
Everywhere. The
non-existent.
world over.
Exactly. And I got an agent and I got a manager, and they were like, these are the things you can do right now. Do you want to do them? And I was like, yes, why not?
Right?
And my first TV appearance was on the show FBI. It comes on CBS. It was a very, very small role. I was a birthday girl. I was
That's
sitting
awesome.
sitting at a table in a restaurant, and a shooting happened.
That's awesome.
Well, yeah.
I remember my first time I was on TV and I saw my elbow. And I was so excited. I saw my elbow. I was like, that's me right there, man. You see that? They framed me out in the final shot, but I was there. I'm happy about. But the fact it's not about that. It's about being there. It's
Yeah.
about being present. It's about being in that moment, being on that set, and it's fun, isn't it fun?
It's so much fun. Like
Right? I love it,
completely
man.
different from a theater set, but so much fun.
See, I'm terrified of theater. Like
Really.
my wife's her dream. We're looking to come back to the U.S. part time. My wife is the first winner of Vietnam Idol. She's a big star here in Vietnam, and so she loves music. She does theater stuff all the time here, kind of in her videos. She does,
Uh-huh.
I shoot her music videos, and so we did this big performance of like sing, sing, sing medley and stuff, and she
Yay.
was dancing and she had a blast. Her dream is to be on Broadway. She's like, I don't know how I can pull that off, and so I'm like, well, let's go back to the U.S. Let's go check it out and see if you can just play around and try. She loves it. She loves being on stage. She loves these long form shows. Me, I get terrified of remembering my lyrics for a whole night. And like, I pull off scenes. I'm really good at a scene. I am a dynamic actor at holding a scene for a day. And the next day, because I came up in television, I
Uh-huh.
came up in film, and you're shooting one scene a day. And with the idea of theater, like you've got this whole show that goes the whole way through. That's terrifying for me.
Yeah, and I
It's
will say
different.
there is a difference. Like
There's a
doing
big
both,
difference, right?
there's a huge difference. But the thing that I respect so much about television actors is, okay, so when you're doing theater, like there's this whole show, like you have all of this time to, drop into the emotion of it. Like you're going through the emotional journey
Yeah,
as
yeah, 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 yeah.
expressive. But in
Yep.
TV, you just kind of have to snap into it. You know, there
And
is
you've
no,
got a grumpy crew around you that's all busy and like rushing. It's wild.
there's no setup. You just kind of
And
have to do whatever
you
you need
shoot
to.
it out of order too.
Yes, yes. Like how? How
Yeah.
I mean,
Today we're playing this dramatic scene that comes at the end of the movie, and then the next day we got to go back to the beginning. Like you're shooting someone and hating them this day, and the next day you're like, "Hey, we're in love." That's fine,
kudos to y'all. All my respect.
right? Well, it's awesome that you're embarking down this journey. Now, where do you go for your creativity and your inspiration?
I watch a lot of TV.
Right? What
That
what are you binge watching right now? I just finished. I just found Yellowstone.
Ooh,
I had
that.
not seen that. It's Kevin Costner's like. Imagine Game of Thrones mixed with like a cowboy thing in modern Montana. Straight up, when it's like, it's pretty wild. It is wild, like a gangster thing with a bunch of cowboys in like modern Western. It's
Hmm.
pretty wild. Well done, and it's just like Game of Thrones, man. Like the intrigue and this. What are you watching?
I have to look that up. Right
Yeah,
now, I'm watching Insecure, of course. The season is still
nice,
going. I just finished Harlem on Amazon Prime. That was
nice.
really good. There's this show that I kind of stumbled upon called Southside. It's on HBO.
I haven't found this one yet.
It is probably the most hilarious thing I've ever watched.
That's important.
It It's so funny. Other than that, I'm like rewatching Christmas movies. Whenever I
Right.
need some kind of creativity to do, because I also started writing in the pandemic. So whenever I need some kind of
Talk to me about
creativity
that. I started my master's in screenwriting during the pandemic, so I'm with
oh
you.
my gosh, that is amazing.
Yo,
Like you
tell
started.
me about you. I'll share with you. But tell me, how did you find writing?
So it just kind of fell in my lap. Like that, I had a mutual friend. Someone just like dropped something in my Facebook inbox, and they were like, "Hey, I got your information from such and such. We're having this writers workshop that's free, um, going on during the pandemic, and it's going to be virtual. Please let us know if you would like to sign up." And at that point, I was like, "Why not?" Writing was something that I was interested in. My mom was a writer. She would write
That's
like a
awesome.
lot of like little short plays for church and whatnot. And I was like, I could probably do that. But it was something that I was like, I'll think about it later, like when I've crossed all of these other things off of my list. And I joined the workshop and I ended up writing like a TV pilot. And I'm
Hell
working,
yeah.
it's the craziest thing ever. So I'm working on another one, trying to figure out what it's about, what I really want it to be. And I'm also trying to write a stage play. So whenever
Wow.
I need inspiration for anything, whether it's like a dance piece, a theater piece, like some kind of writing piece, I kind of just immerse myself in whatever that genre is. So like if I'm
I
trying
love
to
that.
write something for TV, I watch a lot of TV. Or I'm trying to do something for theater, I go and I see a bunch of shows. And this Broadway season alone has like been really inspiring. And I don't know if it's
When
because
when does the season kick off?
so we everyone opened back up in the like August, September, October kind
Mm,
of um uh time of the year, but they usually go from like June to June. I believe that's
okay.
what it is because that's when the Tonys recognizes the seasons. It's
Got
like
it.
from the summertime to the summertime. I think anyway. Please don't quote me on that. But
I have no idea, so I'll take anything you say as gospel right now. I'm like,
no,
okay.
absolutely. But there have been some really amazing things that I've seen ever since everyone's opened back up, and it's just so inspiring. And like I don't know if it's because we were shut down for 20 months or I don't know. I saw
Which
Jack.
is insane. Just like, it's crazy that like, not. And I understand why. This is no talk about COVID
Yeah,
stuff. This is about simply like, this is what my wife and I were talking about. Like, we saw a country, like a city. We live in a city that never stops.
yeah,
It never stops. It buzzes with life. And for 6 months, it stopped. And it was just, it's crazy to think about. Like, just things like, I mean, it's been probably since, Broadway hasn't shut down since probably its early inception. I haven't heard of any shutdowns in Broadway except for maybe during, World War II or something. But even then, I doubt it.
yeah. It's been like small things like
Yeah,
sometime last year there was like a blackout, so they couldn't do anything, but it was for a
I
day.
didn't know that.
It was
For a
for
day, right?
right.
Yeah.
Like shows may get canceled because of dangerous weather, like snow for one day, but for
Yeah.
20 months. Our show Tuesday was canceled. Our show, we did a matinee yesterday, but our evening show was canceled. And then our show today is also canceled.
What? Why would they get
COVID.
freak COVID?
Hmm.
It's come.
Coming back. There just been a
I,
lot of
I,
breakthrough cases.
yeah. I started writing. Do you mind if I share?
Yeah.
I started writing because my friend is a big manager, talent agent in Europe, And so she and I were having this conversation that when COVID hit, um, she was in a position where her actors were going from working, 200 some odd days a year to now people had 18 days in a year. And so suddenly she had her whole roster was like, what are we going to do? And so she sat down she had this concept and I started brainstorming with her and I said, why don't you, run a short film festival with your talent, your academy? And so, and she sat down and I started helping because my background is in media and helping people build out campaigns. And I ran her media for a long time for her agency. And we built out this concept and I contributed ideas, but she built it out. But, I took part in it and wrote a lot of the shorts for some different actors. And it was so much fun that, just to be creative. And then I was like, man, I really like this. And so I found an online program based out of the States that allowed me to start into writing more long form. And I always liked it because I studied history with an emphasis in philosophy in university. And with history, some of the classes I took were in the classics. So I got to read the Greek tragedies like Aristophanes, the birds and things like that. These really, but like the idea is we might have changed the way we speak, but the stories are the same. For thousands of years, we have told the same types of stories, and it doesn't matter what culture people are from. Either it's a happy story or a sad story.
Yep.
That's about it. And most of them follow kind of, it starts good, it gets bad, and either it gets better, that's a comedy, or it starts bad, and it just stays bad, and that's a tragedy. You know what I mean? But like,
And the
and you,
hero's journey does not change.
it doesn't, man. Joseph Campbell knew what's
Yep.
up.
Mhm.
And if you look at that, I started looking and identifying in my own life the journey from the known to the unknown and then back. And so it's interesting because I'm actually in the middle of my own hero's journey as I'm looking to move back to the States. Because I journeyed into the unknown. I found things. I found my self-rediscovery, and now I'm moving back into the past, which is the final part of the hero's journey. You have to reintegrate into your old path.
Mhm.
So
That is amazing.
interesting, right? It's always fun, but it's fun to add these new talents and skills that we can kind of embrace. Now,
Yeah.
talk to me about your music as well. I want to. You also sing. Talk to me about that.
Uh, I sing when it is required. When
Yeah,
people ask me to. I wouldn't really say that I was
a
a sing-
singer.
yeah. I'm a dancer who has extra abilities. I sang all my life, but it's not something that
It's not a thing you identify with as
yeah,
much.
not as much. It doesn't. I love singing. Don't get me wrong, but it
Yeah.
doesn't. You know how there are those people who can just like sing for days and they can wail and they can come up with all of these different
Yep.
harmonies and melodies. That's not me.
Yep. I feel you.
Someone asked me the other day about like because there are people in my cast like during the pandemic they put out like new singles and they did covers of all of these songs and they were like, oh, when is yours coming out? And I was like, it's not. It's not.
You're right.
It's great though, but
I saw a lot of what people were up to. My friend teaches singers, and that was one of the things that when we were in lockdown. Um, David Brunetti, nicest guy out there, and he teaches singing for Broadway. Like
okay.
he teaches singing for acting, and he's from New York, and and we're studying with him, and he started sharing all these videos of what all these Broadway actors were doing in their free time. Like it was the most ridiculously talented stuff I've ever seen.
Right.
It was like, wow, wow. It's just like this amount of talent that is just there is amazing. Now let me ask you this. I normally ask this later on, but I want to dive into it earlier. Um, because you talked about writing. If you could write your dream play, your your dream Broadway piece, what kind of themes, what kind of things, stories, lines would you jump into? You don't have to tell me a plot, but what type of stories would you jump into? What type of story would you love to tell?
So it's funny because I was, well, still am, not necessarily for the stage, but the TV pilot that I was writing was about a girl, basic, a little black girl from Louisiana, just in her regular life. And there is like a show coming out that is the exact same, except this girl has superpowers. That is the only difference. And
That's
I was
awesome.
like, wow.
I I think here's my thing. I think stories exist in the ether,
Yeah.
and I think people can tap into them. I remember when I was living in Vietnam, 2013. I told my friend, I've got this story idea, and I was talking to my friend Merlin. I was like, we need to write this. It is about a soldier, the son of a soldier, who comes back to Vietnam and to find closure for his dad.
Mhm.
And he comes on this and he does, and I kind of outlined the story idea, and we didn't run with it. And I said, you know what? I think it'd be really interesting to have this be an African American guy, because that's a story. There was a lot of, and there's a ton of stories. My story followed the idea of, there's a really interesting story in Vietnam called The Dust of Life. It was in the Washington Post, and it follows and chronicles the children of the GIs and what happened to them, because there were quite a few of them, and they were real outsiders here. And the story, and I had this story about this boy, this young, not boy, he's an adult at this point, but he finds out his father has a child. His father has passed away. After the funeral, he finds the wallet. He pulls out a picture, and on the back of the picture is a name in a city. And so he starts trying to find it, and he comes back. I never ran ahead with the story. I kind of put it out there. Spike Lee comes out with The Five Bloods, which is different, but
But
it's in the same vein, you know. And I firmly believe that these stories exist out there,
yeah,
and that we are lucky enough to kind of bring them in.
yeah. Isn't that crazy
It-
though?
But I mean, you look at it, and like, there's all these times in Hollywood where you get these concepts that are simultaneously, like Deep
Mhm.
Impact and Armageddon, you know, and stories that were developed separately at the same time.
Yeah. It's so
You got to
crazy.
run with it. When you get that idea, you have to run with it.
You have to, and there can't be any kind of hesitation. The funny thing about it is, oh sorry, I actually did an audition for this series. I had to
Do
do a
tell.
self tape for it. It's this the show is called Naomi, and it's about
Nice.
this girl. She's in high school, and she's just like really cool, like really popular, and she just happens to stumble upon these superpowers, and yeah, it's
You
really
just gave me a new question that I have to ask everyone in my podcast from now on. I have a certain standard, and I'll ask them to you later. Like, what would you tell advice would you tell your younger self? I ask everyone, like, if you had a Aladdin's lamp, what would you do? I've got a new one.
okay.
If you had superpowers, what would you do?
I wish
And what superpower would you have?
I wish I had the ability to how do I read people's minds. Uh,
Nice.
it's kind of cheating, but I feel like if you could get a heads up on what people are thinking, it's especially when you know things are about to go crazy,
Yeah.
we could fix it. You know, like
Right?
a bunch of the tragedies that happen in the world. Like imagine if we could get ahead of them. You know, I don't know. Stuff like that always just like really intrigues me. Like the things that I mean, some things need to happen because we need to learn from them, of course.
Yeah.
But if
Granted.
it doesn't, if there was a way we could still learn the same lesson, and people don't have to get hurt. People don't have to get displaced. We could save lives essentially.
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't that be cool?
I'm with you. I'm entirely with you on that.
Yeah.
I think that that's if we had people and reading minds, but even just empathy. If people had more empathy,
Yeah.
that was something I was talking to. Living overseas, as an American overseas, um, we don't in the US travel as much outside the country because the US has so much. You got mountains, you got snow, you got beaches, you've got everything inside. And so it's really kind of like you just travel another part of the US because it's easier, and that's what a lot of people do, right? But when you leave it, there's a level of like and people think that the United States is this homogenous place that everyone's the same. It is not. It is a collection of different cultures because, the Deep South is extremely different than the Midwest, than the West Coast, than the Northeast, and, Boston and New York, completely different. Do not confuse them, you know? And it's really, really interesting like that when you get out of your own culture, you're able to see that at times. And so it forced me to get a deeper level of empathy because I realized, man, I don't understand people around me. And you assume that you do because you speak the same language. But once you realize maybe we aren't even speaking the same language, When you meet Australians, I can't understand a damn thing they're saying sometimes. I love all my Aussie friends, but anyway.
And I actually love stories like that too. I'm also was watching Pin 15 on Hulu. I don't know if you've ever seen that
I
one.
haven't seen that one. Not yet.
First of all, it's hilarious, so check it out.
Pin
But
15,
there's
I'll check it out.
season 2 gets a little deep, and there's this episode. So the show is about these two girls. They're actually adults in real life, but they pretend like they're in middle school, and it's the most hilarious thing
That's awesome.
ever. And one of them is Japanese, and the other
Okay.
is American. And in season 2, it gets a little deep. And the Japanese character, one of her friends, comes to visit from Japan, and she kind of you kind of get an insight into what people who visit, like people who come here for what if it's a better life or for family or whatever, like what they go through when they get here. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because there's a language barrier, of course,
Yep.
but there's also a
The
cultural
culture.
difference.
I'm
And
so scared about moving back. I'm so scared because I'm terrified. I've been outside the US for so long that the last time I visited, I was like in major culture shock.
when did you move, if you don't mind me
So
asking?
I left the US in 2001. Then I
Okay.
came back in 2003 and I was back in LA, and then I left again in 2013, and I've been overseas since 2013.
Mhm.
And so and I mean I've my wife speaks fluent English, and I've been around English speakers, but it's still culturally completely. I don't see myself as fully American anymore because there are tons of things that I do that are not like
And that also may give you a little bit of an advantage, I feel
in
like.
ways. Yeah.
Yeah, because
I'm mysterious now when I go up for like acting roles. Like, oh, oh, he's from Vietnam. He lived overseas. Oh.
he's multifaceted. Ooh.
Yeah, right. Though I was like on the TV show last night on Yellowstone. They do everything so good, but they had this one girl who was a mixed race Asian actress from the U.S. Right, playing a Vietnamese American character, and she's like, "My name is such and such New Yin," and I was like, "What's your last name?" Because I speak Vietnamese. That is not how you say it, and I don't care. So the last name Nguyen
It's
is
pronounced
pronounced
Lynn, right?
Nguyen, and so she's like, "My name is Nguyen," and I was like, "Oh, someone should have told you that is not how you say the name. That is not it. That's not
Nobody
it."
caught that. Nobody.
Nobody caught it, and she slaughtered it. she slaughtered it, and I was just like, As I'm fluent in Vietnamese, and so like I've lived here a long time, and that's when and you have the tone and you pronounce it correct. And so that was interesting because people, again, coming back to our point of the idea of exposure to other cultures.
Yeah.
The idea of, and one of the things I love is I love it when my friend, my friend is, who was that? I think it was like George Lopez or something was talking about how, reporters will be in like perfect English, but when they say their name, they will just do the correct pronunciation, which is awesome.
Mhm.
My name, people here, my name is Sean Eric Trace, and people call me Son. My mother-in-law calls me Son, and she literally writes S-O-N, which is the Vietnamese pronunciation, like writing for my name, because it doesn't exist in Vietnamese. The letters to pronounce my name, so they would pronounce it Son.
Uh-huh.
And so, but it's interesting because that's not my name,
Mhm.
And so I don't know how I got off onto this tangent, but it was just interesting. Now, coming back to you, next question, next round of questions. I think this was that we got off on that because I was talking about empathy.
Yes.
And so, yeah. If you could go back in time and talk to a younger version of yourself, what advice would you give yourself?
Just do it.
Yeah.
I feel like at a young age, a part of me was really concerned about appearances and what other people thought, or like what other people's perception of me was, or what people thought I should be doing, or what I thought I should be doing instead of what really drove me, like what
Right.
I wanted to do, what spoke to me, or what I thought would make me successful or make me a lot
Yes.
of money.
Yes.
Especially when you come from communities where it's like you have to go to school, you have to be educated, and you have to get a job, and you just have to make money, you get married, and you have children, and that's the way your life is going to be. You have children,
Yep.
and those children go to school, and they become educated, and they get degrees, and they go to work, and they make money, and they have families, and they have children. Like, especially
And
coming
then you die.
from
and like and
that,
like and
that's it.
like that's it.
That's it. Especially coming from like the deep south. That's the culture. You go to school and you go to work. And
And
you
I don't know about you, but I had the extra layer too, because I grew up partially in the South.
Mhm.
And then there was also church, and you
Yes.
have that extra layer of additional responsibility and idea of service. And like, I love service, but
Mhm.
we can be of service and also inspire. And also inspire because we are fulfilling our own life path.
My father is a pastor. So
You understand.
I understand you 100%.
And
So
not I what I just said there, in no way, I am a very spiritual person,
yeah.
but I tend to believe that there is a lot of that. In my upbringing at my Christian school, they told everyone to be a doctor or to be a lawyer, and that was the best way you could serve God. And I
Yeah.
was like, God needs artists just as much as he needs anything else.
God needs everything. And that is
Right.
why every single person is put on this earth to do something different. Like
Yep.
everyone can't be doctors, lawyers, or because then what would you do? It just
Right.
always baffles me till this day how kids are so discouraged from the arts, but
Yeah.
then the people who do the discouraging, you listen to music, you watch TV.
Yeah.
Like if everyone just stopped being artistic and started doing what they thought, what you said that we should do, how will we get these things that entertain us all the time?
Do you know there was, and I think a lot of those people that tried to stop people were people that wanted that same thing.
100%. Or wanted something that didn't
Was
follow
told,
the norm, or this path that they thought they needed to be on.
yeah,
And it kind of sucks, and it just reinforces that what people say, like, hurt people. Of course, like, if you didn't
yeah.
get to do what you wanted to do, you don't want anybody else to think to do it, because you want them to be safe, or you don't want someone else's dream to be realized because you didn't get yours that way. Like, it's it sucks. And hopefully now the cycle is broken, and we
Yeah.
see that, like, artistry is a real career. It's
Yeah.
successful. Like, you can make money. Sometimes it's not always about the
Well,
money,
Grant,
you know?
I want to start talking to more financial planners on my podcast to
Mhm.
give artists advice, because I do feel artists are disadvantaged for that, because there is so much training in the arts. Like, either people are taught, you're truly an artist, just ignore the rest. Now, you also have to think about your own business, and you also have to think about how to take care of your own business.
Yeah,
But at the same time, there is a space for the balance, which is interesting that you have the accounting mixed with the art. So,
I know. It was almost like this is exactly what I was supposed to do, because
yeah.
there are so many
Have
of
you
my
ever
friends, huh?
have you ever thought about doing your own podcast on it, talking to people about that?
No.
Not your passion.
I I did once think of starting a business to where it was like financial advice or financial planning for artists, tax
That's a
preparation for
that's a good
artists.
side hustle.
Yeah, it's still something that I would like to do, because I do it, like, very, very simple tax returns for my friends and things, because it is amazing how much artists just don't know. Like,
Don't They just don't know.
how do what is an I-9? Like, how do I fill out all of these things? Like, do I need exemptions? Like, how can an LLC benefit me? Like, how can I write all of these things off at the end of the year? And I think it's actually a course that should be embedded, not just for
Hundred
artists, but
percent.
for everybody, but especially for
Yeah.
artists. In all
Yeah.
BFA, MFA, conservatory programs, we need it. We absolutely need it.
I think that you've hitting the nail on the head. It's something that artists must be taught and
Yeah.
shared, and like given that information, because without it, they're just at disadvantage. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, next question, because I know you got to go in a second, but I want to get one more. If you had Aladdin's lamp, what would you do? What would you wish for?
Oh, this is so cliche, but world peace.
Right. Not
I
cliche. We need it right now. Right now.
we so need it. And there's probably something more specific, but in a nutshell, that's what it is. Like how you were saying, empathy. Like,
Yeah.
if everyone could just stop and look around them and just be aware, like, that is something that drives me crazy on a daily. The fact that most people have no awareness,
No.
like, of yourself or of others. Like,
Can I share an example I noticed today?
yeah.
I'm plotting this move back to the States, and
Mhm.
I've got all these pieces that I'm working on, because I'm trying to figure out, my career, my wife's career, what we're gonna do with my daughter, what we're gonna do with this, what we're gonna do with our house here, what we do. And I start getting out there. I was walking up the stairs today, and I was trying to be quiet because everyone was sleeping. It was nap time. And I noticed when I was looking 5 steps, 10 steps ahead, I was bumping things around me. And so I was like, I'm going to do a practice for a second. I'm going to focus on the step that I'm on. And what I was noticing is I wasn't bumping into stuff. I didn't make any extra noise because I was mindful of the exact space that I was at. Sometimes when we get out in the future, when we start thinking about what we're trying to do, what we want to accomplish, it stretches our energy thin and we get spread thin.
Yeah,
And I think sometimes we just have to call ourselves back to, what am I doing right now? And can I appreciate right now?
absolutely. And it's something that I'm not perfect. I have to check myself on it all the
Me too.
time. And but I think the fact that we know to check in,
It's a
like
good step.
that's progress. Like if
Yeah.
people could just take a second and realize where they are, what they're doing, and how is what they're doing impacting other people, I can't tell you like what a difference that would make.
Do you know in Eastern philosophy, I was a world religions major, and the concept of enlightenment in Buddhism. Enlightenment simply means to be awake.
Yeah,
It means simply in that moment you are awake to, oh, this is where I'm at. Like right now, I can't be thinking about, what I got to do tomorrow. Right now, all I should be doing is being thankful for a wonderful conversation,
yeah.
because that's where I'm at in this moment.
And there is a downside. I will say, and I get caught up in the downside all the time because sometimes when people ask me to do things, I'm just like, y'all, I don't know. I can't look that far
Right.
ahead.
Right.
I can't plan that far ahead. I have no idea. I can say yes right now and tomorrow it can change. Or I can't think too far behind me, which sometimes I think is a good thing, about not
Right.
going too far into the past. But like sometimes it kind of hinders me because I I can only see what's in front of me, and
As a dancer, I think that would be important too.
yeah,
Maybe that's part of where it's at. You have to know. But I think maybe the analogy is of for life is like a dance.
mhm,
You know the moves. You know where you need to be going. But like when you're dancing, you can't get caught up into I missed that step. You have to
yeah,
be present in the now. You be present of the dancers around you. And I think that that's probably one of the best analogies for life you can get.
yeah. You keep moving forward. Yeah, that's all
Keep
we
moving
can do.
forward.
Apologize and keep it moving.
And you and dance to the best of your ability. It might not look great, it might look beautiful, but do it.
But
Do
do
it.
it. Do it.
Do it. I think that's where it's at.
Yeah.